is different. And I think probably if like you're a veteran quarterback on the market, and even if you're us, and as we think about how we want to transition different parts of the roster, every fit's not necessarily going to be perfect. So like, yeah, I'm sure there absolutely are some veterans that would be apprehensive about going to any team that has a high pick in the draft, with the concerns like, hey, am I essentially going to be a placeholder for a highly drafted quarterback? I think that concern is very real for some veteran quarterbacks on the marketplace. That all being said, I wouldn't say that was necessarily a driver for some of our decisions so far. But yeah, I think that dynamic definitely exists in the marketplace.
Titans seemingly poised to take him overall. I don't know that for sure yet. But they also mentioned that they are kind of open to trading him. What are the chances that you would try to trade him to get him?
Yeah, so I guess I'd say like at this point in the process, anything is possible. Candidly, I wouldn't necessarily see that as likely. There are a number of players that we like, in this draft, relatively high. But, I think as we come to really the end of March, first week of April, like we're coming down the home stretch, so to speak, about probably the player assessment phase of the draft process, and then as we really get into the month of April, that's when we really dive into strategy.
Would you find it to be somewhat unlikely because you don't think that they're actually going to pick, or because you have enough things that you like that number two probably not be willing to do that?
Yeah, I'd say maybe it's like either or both, so to speak. Like I don't know that I would pin it down to a specific reason. I think, like, even if you look at historically, I don't know that there's ever really been a trade from 2 to 1. I think like it's pretty rare for the number 1 overall pick to get traded, and I think some of that may be in part of like who's sitting at the top of the draft, and the other part of it might just be the cost of like, okay, the cost of going 2 to 1 is a lot different than the cost of going from 76 to 75, for instance, and you have to weigh all of that in terms of how it fits in your overall offseason plan and what else you can do in the draft. So I think that's probably why it occurs pretty infrequently.
Similarly, have you taken calls on the number 2 pick, and are you open to potentially moving back?
I'd say like anything, like I wouldn't maybe out of respect to other teams talk about those type of discussions, but like I'd say, Daniel, that we're pretty open to anything that we think can be advantageous to us.
Other question about the veteran quarterback. It sounds like you're more likely to wait until after the draft to decide whether to add another veteran.
I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case, Tony. I think that we're probably just a bit more narrow in our focus in terms of the type of veteran that we think would fit where we are from a roster perspective, where we want that quarterback room to be. I think something could happen before the draft. I think, look, I wouldn't rule it out that it could happen after the draft. I think that's fair as well, but I wouldn't necessarily pin it down to any one time frame.
Ideally, do you want 2 veterans and 1 young, not 1 vet and 2 young?
It probably depends more on the player than the actual like age. I'd say this, like, we'll probably skew young, just to be quite frank. I think that's probably more appropriate relative to our our longer term goals.
From your perspective, how did the Kenny Pickett trade come together? Because he told us that in his exit meeting, it was like he was pretty much like, yeah, like we might look to trade you. So was that like, did you kind of seek that out, or was it more of them reaching out and you kind of looked into it?
No, it was something that we sought out, Daniel. Kenny was actually someone that even when Philly traded for him, I guess that was last year. It was someone that we were interested in at the right cost. Now, the realism of that trade happening between us and Pittsburgh, we realized was pretty remote. With Kenny, a young player, we spent a good amount of time with him during the pre-draft process when he came out. Feel like he's a good decision maker. He does a really good job of protecting the ball. He's very mobile. And we think that like his relative strengths are something that fit well with the offense that we're putting into place for this upcoming year. We do think that there's a pretty credible path for him to continue to improve and take a step forward. And I think you've seen that with players that they get into maybe new or sometimes maybe better environments for their particular path in their career. It's a little bit like when we signed Jacoby in 2022, it was really a little bit more of an afterthought transaction, but we felt like Jacoby was a good decision maker who took care of the ball and probably could make a few more plays than he was given credit for when he was in a really challenging situation his last year in Miami. Kenny has, I'm not saying Kenny is Jacoby, but he has a similar profile, but with probably a little bit more physical talent. So we're excited to work with him. He'll have a chance to compete for the job. Nothing's given in that regard, and we will continue to add competition to the room, but we are looking forward to working with him. I do.
You're the only person who's come from the state to see Travis Hunter as a wide receiver.
He's an awesome guy. I enjoy
You see him also contributing on defense?
Yeah, I'd say this, Tony. I think maybe respectfully, part of what I said regarding Travis got maybe perhaps a little overlooked, because the first part of that question, it was like, okay, hey, like, can he play both ways? And I think the answer is yes. Like, he can play either position. I think he'll play both sides of the ball. In the NFL, I truly do. How that balance looks, I think, depends on the relative schemes on each side of the ball, and then how much he can handle, probably more physically than mentally. He's brilliant. Like, he's brilliant from a football standpoint. Has rare intelligence. So I don't think that there's necessarily a limit in terms of how you can use him. I think he'll be good at either spot.
Is the door still open for Nick to return, or would you say you're kind of looking elsewhere in terms of that?
No, I'd say that all possibilities are on the table. Daniel, I wouldn't necessarily shut the door there. Obviously, it's got to be the right fit for both sides for that to occur.
Where does Jeremiah?
I'm sorry.
Where does Jeremiah kind of stand in terms of his progression? And do you guys feel optimistic, pessimistic? I know it's still really early in the year, but where do you feel like?
Yeah, so he's progressing, which is a positive. I'll be honest, like, it is still a little bit nebulous in terms of what that time frame looks like. So we really are trying to deal with it, week to week and month to month.
I like a nebulous reference out of AB there.
Well, it's a very
good word.
It's a good word. Yeah,
strong,
very nice.
strong,
very strong.
All right, there you go from your general manager, Andrew Berry, down at the league meetings in South Florida. We will go around the league coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns. right, time to go around the league, presented by Leaf Filter, official gutter guard of your Cleveland Browns. Listen, there's a lot going on. These league meetings are being taking place down in they're in Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach? Palm Beach?
Breakers, baby.
Beach. Ooh, Breakers. That's a cheap room.
We sure about that these days?
That was one of those ones that you used to look at, and it would be like $1,000 a night. You'd be like, God, that's exorbitant. And now it's like $3,500 a night. Is the situation there.
That's right.
Mike Tomlin said he was available today. He said there's no deadline or timetable for Aaron Rodgers. He said, quote, I don't know that we've approached it from a deadline perspective. Certainly you'd like to have settled circumstances, but, deadlines don't often bring that to a head. This coming on the heels of a report yesterday that Aaron Rodgers reportedly had a throwing session with new Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf, another page in that saga in Pittsburgh. Feels like Pittsburgh or bust that's it, right? That's the only, if he wants to play football, it's in Pittsburgh. And so he's probably making that decision and taking his sweet time to decide.
That is what it sounds like. Yep. Yeah.
They don't have, like as you were alluding to with the Cousins conversation earlier, they don't really have a plan B here. I mean, they have Mason Rudolph, and who else is there? Is Skylar Thompson there still?
Skylar Thompson. Yep. That's it. That's it. You're not wrong.
So they're. And it's just like if Rodgers wants to play, he'll play in Pittsburgh.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
Which is probably not how he saw this all going. When you do the exit from Green Bay, you sign with this young Jets team with these flashy young receivers, this young loaded defense, Big Apple, big lights, bright city, Broadway Joe, all of it.
Play for.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the part that is just so crazy about it, but it was reported, and if you said this, I apologize, but it was reported, because I was scouring for information, but reported that he had a throwing session at UCLA with DK Metcalf, which is...
But how much of this stuff does he just do just so that we talk about it? Sometimes
maybe,
I wonder.
But like...
It seems so odd.
Are you trying to see if you're going to have chemistry with DK Metcalf? Like, I'm pretty sure you are.
I would say just throw it up.
Throw it up. Let him go get it. Yeah, I think that's a very interesting scenario. I don't quite understand what's going on. Yeah, and I don't understand from a Steelers perspective. Now, granted, you have a lot of time, but given everything we've heard about Aaron Rodgers and the way that he wants to run an offense and the kind of like that he needs to come to the modern NFL, I would think you'd want him in your building as soon as possible.
Sure. Yeah, I would think so too. I just think Pittsburgh it's a rare thing for them. They're in a rare situation of being desperate.
The other thing, but the weird thing is, while we were both gone, it came out that they had that meeting while we were on vacation, where he came to Pittsburgh and had like an all-day meeting with them.
Yes,
he called for that. He asked for that meeting, not the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't know. But you can't tell me Skylar Thompson, Mason Rudolph. Like that can't be it.
Listen, I'll be honest.
They would have been better off just keeping Kenny.
I was going to say, right now, I bet they would much rather have Kenny Pickett. And quite frankly, he would run the Arthur Smith offense much better than he ran the Matt Canada offense, which everybody agreed was the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, if there is one, and I know, are we playing Kevin in here?
Yeah, he's next.
So he's very effusive in his praise of Kenny Pickett. And again, I bite at the apple. I don't think necessarily the solution, but maybe it turns out to be a wonderful reclamation project, and he is. But I'll 15-10 as a starter, 7 game-winning drives. I mean, that's not bad. That's not bad. And he was in an awful offense. This is going to be a much better offense. It's going to hopefully play into his skill set. I was reading something today about Jackson Dart where somebody called him a less athletic Kenny Pickett. Well, we've got Kenny Pickett.
You already got him.
That was an AFC scout that had said that.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
That's kind of the way that all that's shaken out. John Harbaugh signed a massive 3-year extension with the Ravens. The other thing, where are you on this tush-push stuff? I heard Kevin's comments, and it'll be part of his. I don't understand the idea of ruling out a play that one team does really effectively.
It's sour grapes if you can't do it.
That's what I think,
and there's
too.
no injury data to support that they should get rid of it. None.
I don't love it.
I don't like that they start first and 9, but cool.
Stop it.
You would like to think that everybody should be able to get someone as adept at it as Jalen Hurts. What makes him unique as a quarterback, he has good leverage, and he's incredibly strong, his ability to do squats and all of that. You'd almost imagine You have 53 roster spots. If you had a guy on your team, find a guy that can have a low center of gravity and can really squat and can take a snap.
Yeah.
That's a worthwhile thing. You've just eliminated 10% of the necessary yards to get a first down. Now, if that's what the league turns into, a bunch of just like rugby scrums every time it's 3rd and 2, that's ugly, but I don't know.
Why am I blanking on the tight end we did it with?
For a second?
Yeah.
Then we have
The kid from Florida. Or the
Harrison Bryant.
Harrison Bryant did
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he would come out there and do that.
But then he
It didn't
botched
work.
it.
Yeah. That's what makes Hurt. It's a Hurts problem because of the amount of strength he has in his lower body.
But I feel like you could find.
Like Tebow would have thrived at that because he had that type of strength in his lower body. Like if he would have had a place on a roster.
Yeah, just to be
doing
a tush
that.
push guy.
Yeah, yeah. So you would that's something that. Yeah, I don't like legislating out something that one team does really well. Just out of, I think you used the word right, sour grapes. Interesting thing out at the farm in Stanford, ex-Colts and Panthers head coach Frank Reich has agreed to deal to become the team's interim head coach at Stanford. It's a 1-season agreement, after which Stanford will launch a national search. Do you know who's running the Stanford program?
Andrew Luck.
He's running it.
He got the coach out of there, and he brought in
the
Reich.
commander himself.
Yeah, it's right.
Was Reich ever with him in Indy?
First Northern California.
Yes.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he had to be, right? The end of
Yeah.
Andrew Luck's career would have been with Frank Reich.
Yep. And that's one of those ones where in this era of college football and college athletics, it'll just be how much does Stanford want to be good at football? They're in the ACC, so their money's not great, but they got a $36 billion endowment, which is 3rd in the country to only Harvard and Yale. So they have all the money in the world. If they have people who say, we want Stanford to be a football power, they can be a football power.
Totally.
Write checks.
It's so, to me, the demise of the Pac-10 is gross.
It's awful. It's awful.
It's awful.
It's awful. It's sad, really.
And when you first look at it, you go, well, that's going to hurt recruiting. And then you realize recruiting doesn't matter because it's a yearly thing. It's a free agency
year.
period at the end of every season.
I know we have some basketball talk here. That's what's happened to the tournament. Is exactly that. So yeah, it's do you have money to compensate, and then do you have culture that you can keep? That's kind of the idea there. Deion Sanders with an extension of Colorado, 5 years, $54 million, making him one of the highest.
I want to know what it costs for him to get out of it if the NFL comes calling.
What it cost? Yeah, that's viable. I think he's done one of the best jobs in the country. They were the worst Power 5 program when he took the job. They became relevant right away. They were a 10-win team last year in the mix for the playoff.
100%.
Won a Heisman. Kid's going to be a first-round pick. Travis Hunter's going to be second position player off the board, maybe.
Maybe first.
So, yeah. No, that's been a home run hire for him. And we will be out there Friday, right? Is that what I saw?
Yep.
Browns will be out
That's
there
the big pro
Friday.
day.
The big pro day for Shador and get a chance to meet with him. All right, second hour of the program coming up next. Included in that, Kevin Stefanski down with the media in Florida at the league meetings. You have that to look forward to, which is nice. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. Morgan Wallen is bringing his I'm the Problem tour to Huntington Bank Field August 15th and 16th. Country sensations Miranda Lambert, Thomas Rhett, and Ella Langley. Tickets on sale now at huntingtonbankfield.com/Morgan Wallen. Don't miss out on this must-see summer show. Time to head back to the podium, presented by Vivid Seats. Purchase your official fan experience packages today for the ultimate game day as your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, down in Florida.
I know you've met with
You guys are down 9.5.
prospects, more substantially than you even had when we talked to you at the combine. What's been sort of your takeaway, especially of the guys, the guys kind of at the top of the draft, Shukimura, Abdul, Cam, and just what you gained from those meetings and their personality?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting process to date. If you think about it, we've met with the guys at the combine. We've done some campus visits. We've had guys up into our building, and we'll continue those into April. I can't tell you how impressed I am by all these guys. They've been raised the right way. Get to know them, get to know their families. There's a lot that goes into playing this game, but having the support off the field is so important. And I think a lot of guys, like you mentioned, are very, very well equipped for this type of role.
When it comes to these private workouts with some of these quarterbacks, what does it look like? What do you like to see? And what do you hope to gain from it all?
Yeah, I think when you're seeing a quarterback throw live, obviously you have the pro day, which is scripted, and they've run through that script, and they have their receivers, and it's very efficient, and they do a great job. Also, the nice part then at a private is you can kind of put them on your own script, and you can ask them to make a couple throws or put them out of order or challenge them a little bit. Or I think maybe the coolest thing to do is give them a coaching point and say, hey, try and take 2 steps off of that drop, or let's see if we can throw it this way, or put your eyes here, and just watch them take coaching. So I think that private, you have a little bit more say in the evaluation piece right there on the grass. But either way, you get to up close see how the ball comes out of the quarterback's hand.
Kevin, what do you say about
I think it goes back to Chris's question. A very impressive young man, has been coached really well. Joe Judge is down there as his quarterback coach, and Joe's former NFL head coach, former special teams coach, offense, defense. So Joe kind of knows the game, so you can tell that he's been really well coached and brought along the right way in this game. So impressive off the field, and then did a nice job on the field as well.
A quick follow-up on Barrett. I know some of the concerns that people have raised is maybe the style of offense that he played in at Ole Miss. It being a spread-out RPO offense, how do you kind of just evaluate the trend, how something like that could translate to the NFL?
Yeah, I think that's probably overstated. I don't know that there's a huge difference in what colleges are doing and what people are doing in the pros these days. There's certainly elements that you're going to ask a quarterback to do differently regardless of what school he came from. So I don't think that there's a concern there.
You still need more time with these quarterbacks. Are you pretty set if you had to turn the card in tomorrow?
No, I'm not ready to turn the card in yet, Mary Kay. I think the whole process is really important to me and to us. And there's still quarterbacks that we haven't seen throw live, still haven't gotten to spend time with them. We have guys that we're still going to bring up for our 30. And then we have our coaches meetings. As you know, you have lots of meetings in the personnel department, and you have February meetings and you have March meetings, and then we have our final April meetings with the coaches, and you get to solidify the order. But I told you guys this before, I'll say it again. I like a lot of guys in this class, not just the quarterback position. I think this is an exciting time because there's really, really good football players.
Whoever you get, when that guy plays, is that completely dependent on who it is and what the situation is? And you put a timeline on it.
Quarterback position?
Yeah.
A lot of questions about the quarterback position. Yeah, of course. I think every situation is different. Every player is different. What they're ready to do and when they're ready to do it, you just have to trust in your ability to discern that with them in your building. So I think that totally varies by player.
We spoke a lot to AB yesterday about Travis Hunter as a prospect on both sides of the ball. But as a wide receiver, what do you like about his skill set and how he could fit in maybe your offense?
Yeah, he's an outstanding player, an outstanding young man. Fun to spend time with him. Elite ball skills. I don't know if there's been better. Truly, this kid's special when the ball's in the air. He's had a ton of production in the college game, and then what he's and oh, by the way, he's doing it for both sides of the ball. But as a receiver, obviously I think room to grow, but certainly has elite ball skills.
Will you do a separate workout with Hunter, or will he join Shedeur?
I think he'll do at the same time. Yeah, I think it's a good question, Jason. I think a lot of every team is having that discussion. I think he's very capable of both. How you structure it, where you start him, quote unquote, is really important to figure out. I could see both sides of it. I could see him as a wide receiver that moonlights at defensive back. The easier thing that you've seen over the years is the defensive back that then gets package of plays. So every team is talking through that and how they would structure it, but this is a unique young man and his ability to do both. Yeah, very excited about Kenny. We've had him up into our building and just the brief time talking to him, understanding what he knows about this game and how he's been coached. I caught up with some of his former coaches in Philly and filled me in on the type of person, type of player. So excited for Kenny and the opportunity, see what he's capable of, and he's got the right makeup for it.
Yesterday, you said he fits what the offense you guys have. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think he's a very intelligent, accurate passer, but he's somebody that you've seen it from him. He's made plays in games. He's won football games with great decision making. He's a plus athlete. I've seen him make all the throws, so I really think he fits in whatever you're planning on doing, but talented overall player.
So you didn't talk Philly with Abdul Carter last week, but I assume you did when he came here.
Yeah, we talked a lot. He went to LaSalle High School. I went to St. Joe's Prep, and that's like oil and water. So right away I said, hey, did you know where I went to high school? He said, yeah, I heard. I said, is this going to be a problem? They said no. So we broke the ice, but very, very impressive young man. I know a lot of people that know him, whether going back to high school and certainly throughout his college, but really, really impressive young man.
Are you more involved this year with specifically the quarterbacks than maybe have been even in the past in terms of this time period? I'm not saying you've never, but I mean, has it evolved?
Well, I think the rare part is obviously having the second overall picks at the top of the round. You want to be able to see these guys, so we've seen them live. That'd be the difference this year.
I'm sure you and Schwartz have talked about Abdul Carter. Does Schwartz see him as more of a Micah Parsons, move all over the place, or 4-3?
I think he's capable, certainly, Tony. He's been an off-the-ball linebacker. He's been an edge rusher. He's rushed from the inside, so certainly when you're evaluating a player, a lot of the discussion then turns into fit and how you would utilize said player. So we've had a lot of conversations with Jim and the defensive staff on all these guys, and obviously Abdul is somebody you talk about where you would line him up, and I don't think there's a limiting factor there where you would put him.
You have this high pick that you never want to have again.
Correct.
You need a quarterback. So if it's close, does that push it towards quarterback from where you sit?
Yeah, from where I sit, I'm excited that we're going to get a really, really good football player on this roster. That's for us to talk through in terms of which player that is, or if it's a trade back. You're moving back, you're still getting players you like, and you're picking up players. So I think everything is available to us, but I think it's something that we'll talk through over the course of the next month.
So, I mean, a lot of these guys you have 2, 3, Shedeur Case 4 years, and Cam by 5. I mean, you have a lot of years of tape of these guys in game action. How do you balance what you see? How much what goes on these 2 to 3 months, between the season and the draft overshadow those?
It's a good question, Chris, and these guys have a ton of starts, and the tape is the most important piece of this. The tape is your resume. It's the thing that we look at the hardest, and when I say the tape, the overall evaluation of the player on tape. Having said that, there's a lot that goes into a person's makeup that you have to spend time with them to get to know. So certainly our scouts do a great job of information gathering throughout the fall and understanding who the players are. But I think you want to rhythm up with the players. You want to get to know them. You want your coaches to get to know them. You want to put them through, put them through an install. We we kind of put our guys through a bit of a test, and when we go and meet with them and give them a playbook and see what they retain and that type of thing. So that's the piece that you can't measure on the tape, and that's an important part of this process for us. Okay, thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. Your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, down at the league meetings in Palm Beach. We will go around the sports world. We are to the Final Four, and something happened for the first time since 2008. I got a pretty good idea why. We'll share that with you coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily. It's presented by Bally Bet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey, Browns fans, this month's winner of the local business platform presented by Minuteman is Square 22, locally owned and operated. Square 22 Restaurant and Bar brings a unique dining experience. The center of Strongsville. Check them out today. It's a perfect spot for casual meals, date nights, private dining, and happy hour alike. To learn more about the local business platform, visit browns.com/community/local business platform. How's our bracket? How we doing? G-Man.
Dude.
Hi, welcome
Terrible.
back.
Hi, G-Man.
I missed you guys.
He's coming in a big way.
You always enter situations in a big way, G-Man.
BZG for life, baby.
Yeah.
All right. Bracket's bad.
Bad. Well,
really bad.
Here's the thing, before you get into it. What college basketball has turned into makes what we did, and we'll explain this a little bit later, makes this very difficult because
Yes, absolutely. So we had two of the Elite Eight teams correct. It was Duke and Alabama. That was the branding bracket. You guys had Duke winning it all over North Carolina. Final four was North Carolina, Duke, Texas Tech, and UCLA.
They almost got
Texas Tech was close.
Close.
So,
oh, man.
not awful. Could be better. 6-16 on the Sweet 16. First round on the right side of the bracket was actually pretty decent. I mean, by my count, only missed 5 games. Picked Montana over Wisconsin. Picked Mississippi State over Baylor. Vanderbilt over St. Mary's.
The East bracket was uniforms and branding.
Right.
Uniforms branding.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
So what was top left? Top left
Radio
was
show.
radio
was
show we would
daily
do.
shows. Bottom
Okay,
left
that's
was
okay.
North
mascot
Carolina
fight.
crushed us.
What was the bottom one?
Mascot fight was bottom left.
And so Red Raiders emerged.
Yep, it was Red
Victorious.
Raiders Sooners in that regional final.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes some sense.
Yep.
So the actual bracket I did ended up having 3 of the 4 Final Four. The only one I didn't have was St. John's. I had them in. They were bounced early by Arkansas. Folks, this is college basketball in 2025.
Yep.
And what it is it's the end of the mid-major, and it's the end of Cinderella. So if you don't watch college basketball all the time, and I totally get it, I don't watch a lot of it until this time of year. But, for example, Johnny Broome, best player for Auburn, he started at Morehead State.
2 years at Morehead State.
Yep.
Ohio Valley Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah. So there are circumstances like that on every team. Duke is built kind of in the more traditional one-and-done way where they have this best freshman class, transcendent player, and cup, and flag.
Cooper Flag.
And so they're built kind of in the old-school, traditional, big, huge recruiting class, some veterans. But everybody else, it's and that part of it, Beamsy was saying this to me yesterday. He's like, it just feels like it's not exciting. And I'm like, I get it. It's fun. Cinderella's fun. Ideally, Cinderella is fun in the first weekend, and then they extinguish themselves in the Sweet 16, Elite 8. You don't want them in the Final Four.
Right, because then you end up with blowouts.
Right,
I mean,
they're not built to go beyond that point. But we had a couple of years ago, before NIL, you had incredible parity.
Yes.
You remember that one that had it was like San Diego State,
UConn,
Gonzaga,
Florida Atlantic, and Miami.
Atlantic, and Miami. That was the Final Four. There's another one that had San Diego State played UConn for a final, and then there was one where it was Texas Tech against Virginia in a final.
That one was 2019. It was Texas Tech, Auburn, Michigan State, and Virginia.
Yeah, because Virginia won it. Yeah. So you had this crazy parity in the sport in that the Blue Bloods were doing one and done, and they weren't able to turn it into anything substantially.
Yep.
And so you had these mid-majors or mid-level majors, Power 4 conferences now, where guys were there 3 and 4 years, and they were building.
Play good team basketball.
Good team basketball. Now, what you have is a league like the SEC that said, we're going to put all of our money in football, men's and women's basketball, baseball, and softball, and we're only going to have 16 team sports, and all our money's going there, and we're going to be great at it. And they are. So it's done. You're not going to see George Mason again. You're not going to see Florida Atlantic again. You're not. Mark Sears, who hit 75 threes in the Sweet 16 game, he played a year at Ohio.
OU, yeah.
Yeah, he was an Ohio Bobcat.
Yep.
And then he played 4 years at Alabama after 1 year at Ohio. So, all of that is done for better or worse. I guess it just depends on your perspective. First time since 08, all ones reached the Final Four.
I do remember seeing a graphic on the Elite 8 teams. Actually, Arizona was still in, so it must have been Sweet 16 because Arizona lost to Duke.
Yep.
And it had their starting fives, and it had the college logo of where they all began their college careers. And there was maybe one team or two that had 3 or more of the guys on the team that started with the team.
There was one school that had all 5 of their starting 5s started
Just
at
one.
that school.
Yeah.
Was it Duke?
Purdue Boilermakers.
Oh, Purdue. They were all Purdue. Who's
Arizona had 0. Their
Yeah.
starting 5, not a single person was recruited to Arizona, which is nuts.
Yeah, I mean, think about
Kentucky's
Florida.
entire team, Mark Pope had to turn it over year to year. When Mark Pope took the job at Kentucky, he had nobody on the roster. So he had to get all these kids from BYU and San Diego State, guys because he coached at BYU.
Yep.
So he had to get them to come to Kentucky. Those kids played for Kentucky, which is as blue as it gets as a blue blood. And then they were 1 year rentals.
Yep.
Arkansas has Kentucky's team from last year. Arkansas had it. All those, when Peyton and I went down there for the practice, those are all the kids who played at Kentucky. and now they all play at Arkansas.
Yep.
So, like, you are flipping a roster entirely year to year. I don't know if it's good or bad. I think it's probably fine because most people probably only watch college basketball for this month. So I think it's probably fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Gibby.
You cannot have a transfer portal open in the middle of tournament. It's the same thing with the college football playoff. They have got to stop opening portals for coaches, for players. 1,700 college basketball players entered the portal. There aren't even 1,700 scholarships.
No. At least here's what makes this one, for folks who don't know, the basketball portal, men's and women's basketball portal, opened in the middle of March.
Yeah.
So it opened after the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. So what that means is a kid can put their name in a portal, and they can then be contacted by other teams to incentivize them to go to a new team while the NCAA tournament is going on. The football thing happens too. It happens like December 16th, so it's in the middle of the playoff. Football, though, at least you can say this. There is some sort of guise of academia that they're hiding behind.
Sure.
Because it's in between semesters, right? End of the semester, start of a new one. There is no reason for there to be a basketball portal open right now. None.
Correct.
There is no school in the country that is in between quarters right now. Who the hell's still on the quarter system? And would it even match up? You're in the middle of the second semester.
I mean,
How are we going to even act like academically? Can you imagine, like in your junior year at Emory, if you're like in March, you're like, yeah, I'm going to transfer, I'm going to go to Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt's like, okay, that's fine, but you just need to wait till the end of this year so your credits transfer. You're like, no, I'm coming now.
Yeah. No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No.
What are we doing?
I'm sorry.
I saw Jay Billis had a great tweet. He said, look, there has to be a penalty at some point. Kids can't transfer 3 and 4 times.
I agree.
Like, after the first, you get one.
One do-over.
You get one. After that, you got to sit
Choose
out,
wisely.
whether it's half a season or a full season.
The only thing that's surprising about that from Billis is he usually wants the exact same rules for players as coaches.
Well, he brought it up. He's been pretty strong about this whole the Willard guy from Maryland, who clearly was going somewhere else while his team was in the tournament.
I would say that, as I've said this forever, it's one of a soapbox I live and die on. They just need to treat them like what they are, which is professional athletes, and just give them contracts. So if you sign a contract, if you're Cooper Flagg and you sign for Duke for 1 year, $4.5 million, or whatever the heck he's getting, and it's probably somewhere in there, and he deserves every penny of it. Okay, it's 1 year, and then next year he's going to go pro, and that's it. But if you're somebody else and you sign let's say you sign a 2-year deal to play point guard at Alabama, if you're Mark Sears, you play point guard at Alabama for 3 years, then you are honored, but you are owed that. You have to honor that commitment and that contract. If you want to get bought out, just like a coach, then your new school has to pay off what you're owed. Coaches have buyouts. Players should have buyouts.
Yeah.
Just treat them all the same and call it professional sports, and then you're done. Trying to the problem is anytime that, and this is the one thing that makes me surprised about Billis is, anytime you try to legislate, well, you get one transfer, you get this. If you're a student, you can transfer as much as you want. You can go to 6 colleges in 4 years, transfer every semester. If you want, it's not good business, but you could. So that's where they get into trouble, when they try to limit what a student athlete can do versus what a student can do or what a coach can do. And if they just call them pros, then that's it. It solves it.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
It's nuts.
I mean, I feel like the NIT will be the new mid-major tournament.
It's already turning into that because there's that college basketball crown thing that the other Power Fours are playing in, which is nonsense.
By the way, I couldn't tell you one team or one score or anything that's happened in that.
It hasn't started yet. It
there
starts
you go.
this weekend.
See?
NIT's been going on. It's nothing. You're going to get a monster final. Like, the numbers for this have been great because guess what? People like Goliath.
It's all the 4 best teams.
It's Duke, Houston, and Auburn and Florida. They're all really good teams. Duke is crazy good.
Yeah, Duke's going to win.
Crazy good.
5 minutes into that Arizona game, I was like, rough. This is going to be – I hadn't seen Arizona play, and I forgot that what's-his-face from North Carolina transferred there.
Caleb Love,
who I hate. And I'm like,
Me
God,
too.
I didn't want to see him. And 5 minutes in, I'm like, they could lose this game tonight.
Nah.
And then Alabama, I'm like, well, this is a tough one, and they win by 20. And I'm like, all right, maybe they're way better than I think.
They're better than their length is crazy. Their shot making is crazy. Their depth is crazy, and Flag is
so
ridiculous.
I think most of their starting five is freshmen. I think at least 3 or 4 are freshmen. But the fact that they got at least Proctor to stick around for 3 years, that has kind of steadied the ship as well.
Cooper Flag is the modern version of what happens with what I see in youth sports, which is positionless basketball.
Yep.
He's 6'9", but he's primary ball handler for them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He is. So, no, it's been fun, and the numbers have been good, so very cool to see. All right, we will head to South Florida. Our good buddy Andrew Siciliano going to join us from the league meetings coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, presented by Ballybet, official sports betting partner of your Cleveland Browns on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Oh, baby. Let's head to South. He's in South Florida, is he not? Is he not? He's in South Florida, of course. Andrew Siciliano, in the off-season, only lives in 5-star locations with lots of sun. And that's
all he does.
That's all he does. Twisted Tea Hotline, presented by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of Cleveland Browns. Keep it Twisted Cleveland. He is the great Andrew Siciliano. He joins us from down in the annual league meetings in Florida. I was in your neck of the woods last week. South of you.
Hold on, California.
Yeah, south of you. We were Orange County, Dana Point, and then we were in Palm Springs,
Thanks for
Palm
calling,
Desert.
buddy.
Well, we were at Nate. I tried to do all the touristy LA stuff, so like Nate and Al's and Staples and all that stuff for the kids, and then tried to bust down. Here's something that was a unique experience, and maybe this is an experience you know or not. I was using we didn't. I'm smart enough. I've been there enough. I stayed away at rush hour. I did all of that trying to get south to Orange County. So I was smart in that regard. I was using Waze as a means to guide me through Los Angeles, okay? As we went from airport to Staples to Beverly Hills and then inevitably down to southern Orange County.
A lot of side streets and bad left turns that the phone probably made you try to take, right?
Dude. On at least a half dozen times, the phone had me exit the freeway to get back on the freeway to jump 100 cars in traffic. I ended up, I'm like, okay, boys, this is where they filmed the gun shootout in Heat.
Yep.
In industrial somewhere.
Yep.
And then at one point we were like near USC, and I'm like, and this is Boys in the Hood. This is where this was. You haven't seen that yet, but this isn't where I thought we were going to get to go. So it was an experience just live. And by the way, Andrew, there was probably everywhere I went, there was like 20 cars doing the same thing I was. It was insane.
Of course.
Yes.
Well, it's always a game, right? Because you say, I'm not going to get off the highway and do that. I can beat this. That's insane. I'm not going to do that. And then you're like, well, maybe I should have done that. But I also, you guys, multiple people in the car, you could have been in the carpool lane.
I was. Didn't have much difference when you were on the freeways. Dude, I left Beverly Hills at 2 o'clock trying to go to Dana Point, and I thought, all right.
Oh, good luck.
Dude, it was 2 o'clock on a Thursday.
No way. Can't go anywhere.
Gridlock.
You can't. Well, Thursday's worse than Friday.
Why?
It doesn't make any sense. In LA, Thursday's worse than Friday. I'm already have this dilemma right now, so I'm in Florida, obviously.
Yeah.
And by the way, like everyone, sitting on the 480 bridge right now listening to LA traffic reports, I'm glad you love this. But I'm flying back tomorrow, and I'm debating whether I have to go down and see the guards in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I'm already debating, like, if I land at noon tomorrow, is it even worth trying to go to a 6 o'clock game 115 miles away? Is it even worth it?
I don't know if you'll get there. It didn't. So when we drove to the desert, we went like south and then through Temecula and over the top into Palm Springs.
Love a good Temecula.
Yeah.
And the traffic really didn't ease, I want to say, until like maybe, is it Oceanside or San Clemente?
In San Diego, yeah.
Something way down there. Like just north of Carlsbad was before the traffic, you could finally move. Yeah, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. So
I got the electric vehicle, so I can go in the carpool lane, but it doesn't always. If you want to cut down to the 73 and pay the toll through Newport, there's also that. And again, now this is an SNL bit we're doing right now.
The Californians.
The Californians, that's it, right?
Yeah. Stuart.
Hey, what did you learn today, buddy?
What I learned. What did I learn? They're not going to force a quarterback at 2, but I think we all knew that. I just think people have to wrap their head around that. You can't make a quarterback better than you've scouted him by taking him 2.
That's fair.
He doesn't magically become better at football because you take a player at 2. You have to take a player at 2 that you think is worthy. Look at Miles, obviously in 2017. Baker, don't want to revisit that, but went to the playoffs, won a playoff game. Obviously, they were both number 1 overall picks. Picking this high, Denzel at 4, like you should hit a home run, and they need to hit a home run at 2. And if it's not a quarterback, it's not a quarterback. AB was pretty adamant yesterday that, look, not adamant. I guess he said trading up for 1 doesn't seem likely. I would also caution it's only a month out. I don't want to get people's hopes up. A lot can change when you're on the clock. And if I'm selling a commodity, and the Tennessee Titans could potentially be selling a commodity, the price I'm asking right now is probably a lot higher than the price on when I'm on the clock if I realize no one's going to pay it.
Yep. That's
You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yep.
Right. So, like, if, everyone's like, they want a Godfather deal. Like, they want 2 ones. There's no way on earth you're paying 2 ones to go 1 pick. No.
No.
But, what is that price when you're on the clock? I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, and that's exactly it. As if their mindset was to not draft him all along at that moment, getting anything, and still, for example, trading with us would allow them to still get who they want. Getting anything is better than getting nothing for that. So I was saying,
but they also may really like him. Sorry,
they may, and they may
like
just draft him.
It may not be a smoke screen. They may really like him.
It seems to me that there are 5 buckets for the Browns with pick number 2. One, as you just talked about, would be trading to 1 for Cam Ward. Number 2 would be staying there and taking Shedeur Sanders. Now, we're saying we're not forcing a quarterback. It makes me feel like that is a less likely scenario. Now, we did hear Brian Callahan say that Shedeur was on the list of the 4 players they're considering at number 1, but it feels like that's less likely. So then bucket 3 would be you stay there, you take Abdul Carter. Bucket 4 would be you stay there and you take Travis Hunter. And then bucket 5 would be you trade down. Do you have a sense of, and let's say it feels to me like right now bucket 1, which is the Cam Ward bucket, is kind of maybe the ideal scenario but feels tougher to attain. Number 2 seems like a little bit less likely than maybe it did a few months ago. So when you're looking at that, just asking your opinion, which of the Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter trade down, what do you like the best?
I don't want to trade down far.
Me neither.
And I also and remember, if you trade down, somebody's got to have to trade.
Somebody has to want
to trade up.
Yep.
So, like, for example, the Giants, and this is part of the reason that the Browns are everyone's saying no one knows what they're doing.